The 1970s shaped sci-fi in ways that still feel unusually bold. These films look simple at first glance, but each one carries a quiet edge, a strange confidence, and a style that modern movies rarely attempt. If you think the decade feels predictable, these titles will open the door a little wider. Alien, 1979. Alien is cold, quiet, and ruthless in the best way. It drops you inside a deep space freight ship that feels lived in, scraped up, and very far from help. This was not a glossy future. It was a working-class grind with stale air and metal corridors that echo when someone breathes wrong. The moment the distress signal pulls the crew off course, the film tightens like a vice. Every shot is calculated. Every sound is designed to make the walls feel closer. Director Ridley Scott builds tension with patience instead of noise. Nothing rushes, and that slow burn makes each reveal land harder. And then there is the creature. The design still shocks today. You never get a full view for too long, which keeps your imagination working overtime. The movements feel instinctive, like a predator that learned the ship faster than the people who built it. The attacks are quick, brutal, and final. Sigourney Weaver's Ripley cuts through the cast with steady control. She is not superhuman. She is smart, alert, and refuses to fold. You watch her separate herself from panic one decision at a time. That is why the final act hits with such precision. She earns every second of that escape. Alien works now because it understands silence. That is something modern films forget. Letting tension breathe turns the simplest sound into a threat. Flickering lights, steam bursts, empty hallways, every piece traps you in the same dread the crew feels. And that final reveal about the company's motives still feels sharp, especially when you look at how industries treat people today. Star Wars, 1977. Yes, it is mainstream. Yes, you have seen it everywhere. But its impact is still massive because nothing before it looked or sounded like this. Star Wars took old adventure serials, mixed them with advanced practical effects, and created a galaxy that felt huge even when the film cut to a simple dialogue scene. The second that Star Destroyer glides across the screen, everything changes. The scale, the design, the sound, every detail announces a new era. The ships move with weight. The lasers streak with color. The worlds feel textured and used. This is not shiny sci-fi. This is a place where sand sticks to skin and machines break down at the wrong moment. The characters push the film forward with clean, direct motivations. Luke wants escape, Han wants profit, Leia wants justice, and Vader wants control. The clash of those goals keeps the pace sharp. Every scene adds momentum. No fat, no drift. And the practical effects still hold up. Models, puppets, matte paintings, hand-built sets, these things age with personality rather than decay. You can feel the craftsmanship in every shot. Even the lightsaber sound carries a spark that digital audio often loses. Why does it still hit? Because it captures scale without losing clarity. A universe can feel enormous, but it means nothing if the characters do not anchor it. Star Wars understood this from the start. That is why people return to it over and over. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 1977. Close Encounters does something different from every Alien film that came before it. It avoids panic and jump scares. Instead, it leans into curiosity and awe. The tone is calm until it is not. Gentle until it becomes overwhelming, and grounded until the sky lights up with things nobody can explain. Richard Dreyfuss plays Roy, a man pulled towards something he cannot describe. His obsession grows piece by piece, and the film treats that obsession with a steady hand. It never mocks him. It never rushes him. You watch a regular man try to understand a signal that feels bigger than anything in his life. The visuals still hold. The glowing lights, the low rumble, the patterns that never repeat, all of it stays with you after the credits roll. Spielberg builds anticipation through sound as much as image. The tones are simple, but unmistakable. You hear them once and they lock into your memory. The government sequences bring a grounded balance to Roy's chaos. Scientists track strange readings. Experts scramble to decode events without revealing too much. Each scene layers information without breaking the calm mood. And the final sequence remains one of the cleanest, most striking reveals in science fiction. No noisy explosion, no forced clash, just contact. A meeting delivered with quiet confidence, bright lights, and a sense that something extraordinary is finally stepping forward. Solaris, 1972. Solaris is not here to entertain you in a traditional sense. It is slow, dense, and deeply focused on the mind rather than spectacle. But when you settle into its rhythm, it becomes one of the richest sci-fi experiences ever filmed. A psychologist named Chris Kelvin arrives at a space station orbiting a mysterious planet. The crew is shaken. The corridors are quiet. Something has been touching their thoughts and pulling out pieces of their past. Solaris creates living replicas of lost people, not clones, not ghosts. Something in between, formed from memory and emotion. The station feels heavy with silence, as if every wall hides a confession. Tarkovsky shoots scenes with long takes that force you to sit with each idea. You cannot skim this film. It demands attention and rewards patience. The visitor who appears to Kelvin changes the entire direction of the story. The film does not play the moment for shock. Instead, it explores how memory controls us more than we realize. The emotional weight grows without raising its voice. Solaris stands strong today because it treats sci-fi as a way to examine the mind. The effects are minimal, but the impact is enormous. No twist ending, no easy answers, just a steady pull toward questions most people avoid. A Clockwork Orange, 1971. This one pushes buttons on purpose. Stanley Kubrick builds a world that looks familiar until the violence and style twist everything sideways. The language snaps, the colors flare, and the music collides with scenes that should never feel comfortable. Alex, played by Malcolm McDowell, controls the screen with a grin that never quite matches his eyes. He moves through the early scenes with confidence that borders on theatrical cruelty. When the system finally grabs him, the film takes a hard turn. Instead of stopping him with force, society tries to rewire his reactions through a procedure that strips away personal control. Kubrick shoots the transformation with icy distance. No emotion, no warm lighting, everything feels clinical. Like you are watching people push morality aside for the sake of outcomes. The result is disturbing without leaning on shock tactics. The design is bold. Sharp edges, strange furniture, distorted music, and a future that feels both stylish and rotten. Nothing blends. Every piece clashes on purpose. That friction is what makes the film stay fresh. A Clockwork Orange still matters because it examines control in a way few films attempt. Who decides what makes someone good? What happens when punishment turns into something worse than the crime? The film never hands you an answer. It refuses to soften the edges, and that refusal keeps it powerful. The Andromeda Strain, 1971. This film wastes zero time explaining its intentions. A small town goes silent. No alarms, no warning. Just silence so deep it feels unnatural. A recovery team moves in and finds the streets clean but lifeless. Something invisible swept through, fast enough to leave everything where it fell. From here, the film locks into one of the most disciplined displays of scientific tension in sci-fi. A mysterious organism from space becomes the center of the investigation. The film treats the danger with absolute seriousness. No wild theories, no grand speeches, just methodical work inside a high-tech underground facility built to contain the worst threats people can imagine. The visual style is unique. Split screens, color-coded rooms, precise diagrams, shots that look like they came from inside a lab, not a movie set. Michael Crichton's premise thrives in this environment. The stakes do not rise because of dramatic music or panic. They rise because the science feels close enough to reality that every misstep becomes a small disaster. The team works through layers of information, and the film respects the audience enough to show the process instead of cutting around it. You see how data shifts conclusions. You see how one flaw in a system becomes a trap. You see how pressure forces people to move faster than they should. The reason this film still holds power is simple. Threats today feel more invisible than ever. The fear of something microscopic changing the world overnight feels real in a way audiences could not predict back then. Watching experts fight an unknown organism using every tool they have creates a different kind of tension, one built on accuracy instead of fantasy. The final minutes push the team to its limit. No explosions, no space battles, just a countdown that moves faster than the people trying to stop it. Clean, lean, tense. Logan's Run, 1976. Logan's Run opens with a bright, colorful future that hides something ugly under its perfect surface. People live in a domed city built on pleasure, comfort, and ease. Music plays, lights glow, everyone smiles. But the clock on their hand tells them exactly when their life ends. There is no debate, no alternative. Once the time hits, they are done. The film follows Logan, a man trained to enforce this system. His job is simple: stop anyone who tries to escape their fate. But when he receives a sudden order that forces him to question the entire structure he protects, the story takes a decisive turn. His controlled confidence begins to crack, and the world around him shifts from bright spectacle to something far less inviting. The design language is bold: clean lines, soft curves, smooth architecture. Futuristic in a way that still feels imaginative today. It is retro, but not outdated. The color palettes create a contrast between perfection and danger, making every hallway and chamber feel both beautiful and unsettling. Nothing in the city looks improvised. Everything is planned down to the last detail, and that precision becomes oppressive once you understand the system behind it. The outside world introduces a completely different energy: overgrown ruins, quiet landscapes, nature reclaiming the land. These scenes highlight how disconnected the people inside the dome have become from reality. They live in controlled entertainment, unaware of anything beyond the walls. Logan's Run still resonates because of how directly it handles control through comfort. It shows how easy it is to accept a pleasant cage when the cage removes every inconvenience. The film rarely raises its voice, yet the message cuts sharp. A world that gives people everything can still take the only thing that matters: the ability to choose. The story builds to a conclusion that blends hope with uncertainty. Logan stands in front of a system that shaped every part of his life, and for the first time, the truth is visible. The film does not offer easy closure. Instead, it leaves the audience thinking about how far people will go to keep a stable, polished world intact. Mad Max, 1979. Mad Max is raw, fast, and stripped down to the bone. Before wasteland warriors and giant convoys entered the series, this first chapter focused on a society breaking apart at the seams. It is not a full collapse yet, but you can see cracks everywhere. Patrol units struggle to enforce order. Roads twist through empty stretches where nobody can guarantee safety. One wrong move sends everything crashing into violence. Max is a quiet officer in a police force stretched thin. He handles the chaos with steady nerves, but the world around him keeps escalating. Criminal gangs swarm highways with reckless energy. Their vehicles rattle and roar like metal beasts. When one of these groups crosses a line that hits close to home, the tone shifts into something far more personal. The directing style is fierce, sharp editing, high-speed chases that feel dangerous instead of polished. The camera hugs the ground, making vehicles fly past with brutal speed. Stunts are real. Explosions are real. The danger is real. You feel the weight of every collision. The world building is subtle, no long explanations, no exposition dumps. You understand the state of civilization from scraps of conversation, half-broken signs, uniform decay, and the cold way people interact. It is a society balancing on the edge with no hint of recovery in sight. Mad Max remains strong today because of its stripped-down intensity. There is no excess, no padding, no scenes built just to fill time. Everything pushes tension forward. Every piece of dialogue adds to the feeling that something is shifting in the wrong direction. What gives the film its impact is not the violence itself, but the emptiness that comes after it. Roads stretch endlessly. Towns feel fragile. People act like they know the world is slipping away, but refuse to say it. Max becomes the final reflection of a system cracking under pressure. Once he steps into the darkness, the transformation feels earned, not forced. Westworld, 1973. Before theme park disasters became a staple in sci-fi, Westworld shaped the blueprint. A high-priced resort filled with lifelike machines lets guests act out fantasies without consequence. At least, that is the pitch. The film takes this concept and turns it into something far more unsettling. The park splits into different zones: Western adventures, medieval fantasies, Roman indulgence. Guests walk in, choose a setting, and interact with machines that follow programmed behaviors. The idea looks perfect until the system begins to crack. Small glitches, delayed reactions, odd expressions. Nothing catastrophic at first, but enough to make certain technicians uneasy. The tension builds quietly. The staff behind the scenes tries to diagnose issues as if they are dealing with routine maintenance, but these machines adapt faster than expected, and soon the errors form patterns instead of random events. A gunslinger in the Western Zone, played with icy precision by Yul Brynner, becomes the face of the malfunction. His steady movements and cold stare turn him from entertainment into a relentless threat. The film moves with clean precision. It does not drown you in technical jargon. Instead, it shows the consequences of technology slipping beyond control. Guests realize too late that they rely on rules the machines no longer follow. Westworld still feels current because the themes echo modern debates: automation, artificial consciousness, and entertainment built on artificial beings. The film does not reach for epic chaos. It stays focused on the rising fear inside a closed environment where safety disappears one detail at a time. As the gunslinger hunts, the camera lingers on his movements, giving the villain an unsettling calm instead of loud menace. No theatrics, just unwavering focus. That choice makes him far more memorable. The final stretch plays out as a cat-and-mouse chase through different sections of the failing resort. Each environment works against the protagonist. Machines everywhere, systems collapsing, doors locking, lights flickering. The fear is simple. Nothing in the park listens anymore. Stalker, 1979. Stalker closes this list with one of the most haunting films the genre has ever produced. It does not rely on spectacle. It does not chase action. Instead, it leads the audience into a restricted region known as the Zone, a place shaped by an unexplained phenomenon that left reality unstable. Paths shift. Objects behave strangely. Rules break without warning. The land itself feels alive. A guide known as a stalker leads two clients into the Zone. The camera follows them through ruins, waterlogged tunnels, rail tracks, and empty fields where silence hangs heavy. Every movement feels cautious, as if the space might react to a single misstep. Tarkovsky uses long, meditative shots that draw you into the atmosphere instead of pushing you away. Nothing inside the Zone is loud. Nothing jumps out. Yet everything carries tension. The danger is invisible, and that invisibility makes the environment feel larger than any monster or explosion. You never see a clear threat, but the characters move with constant awareness, which makes the viewer do the same. The core of the film lies in the conversations between the three men. Their doubts, hopes, fears, and motives create friction that grows with each step forward. The room they seek, a place said to grant the deepest wish inside a person, becomes a symbol rather than a destination. The closer they get, the heavier the air feels. Stalker still holds power because it treats sci-fi as a space for ideas rather than spectacle. It gives you a world that reacts to the mind instead of physics. The Zone becomes a mirror that shifts based on who steps inside. That is why the film lingers long after it ends. It plants thoughts that return days later without warning. Visually, the film is striking. Muted tones outside the Zone, rich, saturated colors inside it. Water reflecting debris, grass moving in slow patterns, broken structures standing like memories. Every scene is composed with intent. The ending refuses to guide you. Tarkovsky gives no explanation, no clear answers. Only a final sequence that blends silence, uncertainty, and a hint of something extraordinary.